You know how in a bull market, if you've been in a crypto bull market, it's parabolic. It's getting crazy. All-time high after all-time high, little dip, maybe 20% dip, actually pretty volatile, and then boom, crazy bounce back to the upside, new all-time high, like week after week, month after month. The charts are just exhilarating, especially if you're in crypto and you've been waiting around for something like that to happen. And in those environments, as we just go crazy overbought, overvalued in those environments, when people are just constantly bullish, it's good to start analyzing and questioning, well, is this sustainable? Is this right? Is this okay? And in that regard, stepping out, zooming out, looking at the cycles from a time frame perspective and saying, what's next here? Is this going to keep going forever? Because it never does keep going forever. And the reason I'm bringing that up is right now, the same thing is happening to the flip side. And the bearish narratives in this bear market, it actually seems like it's picking up a little bit. And listen, I understand the macroeconomic difficulties that we're going through, and those things they're happening. I get it. And it's partly why things are just struggling, right? Charts are struggling. That's a big piece of it, the sentiment. I get it. But when you zoom out on the charts and you look at just from a cycle perspective, crypto is doing exactly what it has done every cycle, no matter what was happening in previous cycles compared to what's happening right now, is doing exactly what it's done in previous cycles. And then the other thing is this: if you look at, things resolving themselves, timeframes of when things will be resolved, it lines up so well, and I've said this a lot lately, it lines up so well with the next bull market, with the Bitcoin halving. And then we sprinkle in all the other narratives, Bitcoin ETFs, approvals, the SEC cases that are going on, and SEC regulatory clarity and what the courts might bring, what Congress might bring, elections coming up, all of these things. So I'm putting this out there, I'm not trying to spread hopium or sound ultra bullish in this state of fear that markets clearly are in right now, but I can't help but to zoom out on the charts and just see what's happening. There's a lot of people that I'm seeing that are it's just the sentiment. It's the vibes that are out there. They're so bearish. They're so full of fear. And just like in the bull markets, when things become way too parabolic, way too overvalued, start questioning. And it's the same thing now. Things are starting to become very undervalued. There's a lot of fear. Start questioning. Is this going to go on forever? The answer is no, it's not. And so there will be a pivot back to the upside. The question is, are you prepared? And in this video, as we dig into the charts, and right now I'm going to dig into the charts, I want to say something. I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake in the first part of the bear market and throughout the bear market. And I want to explain what that mistake was. And let's just do it. Let's dive into the charts. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber, everybody. Hit that like button because your support, it truly means so much to me. Let's do it. There it is, everybody. The Bitcoin cycles of Bitcoin, the chart, we've all grown to really just know and look at a lot, especially now as we exit this bear market, because that's what I think we really are doing. There's a lot of pain involved. I want to dig into it. I want to actually just start by showing you right here. I'm going to discuss right here, all the way back in like October, November, December 2021, a mistake that I think I made that applies to exactly what we're talking about in this video. And that is to say why I think the bear market is coming to an end. But there are very, very important things we need to pay attention to. I want to start here before we talk about that, though, and that is this. I saw this tweet over here from Seth on X, Wall Street, Psychology of Market Cycle. Check this out. Compared to a web search for the word Bitcoin in the past 5 years, we're at depression according to the amount of Google searches for Bitcoin. So there's the market psychology chart. Y'all are probably very familiar with that. But check out the top right. There's the Google Trends. Look at how it just mirrors the psychology of market cycles. Why is that? And why are these cycles so just consistent? It's because it's human beings. And that Google Trend chart is a different look at the actions of human beings. Interest coming, parabolic environments into overbought environments. Look at that, touching 100 on Google Trends, and then interest just leaving. People leaving crypto, things becoming undervalued. That's all it is. It's human beings behind all of the data we talk about, even the Bitcoin charts. I charted this chart back here in 2018. The lines that you see back in 2018, just speculating if these trends and these emotions behind these cycles continues, what's going to happen? And it almost played out perfectly. So I just wanted to point that out because I think it gives us perspective. I think where we are in the cycles of crypto, the psychology of this market is somewhere in here in the depression phase. I don't even think we're in anger phase anymore. I really think we saw anger, especially at the collapse, the capitulation of cryptos. All the while, we're seeing FTX, Celsius, and all of these scams and all of these things happening. There was anger. Now we're in depression. There's room for higher lows. There's room for downside in depression range. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about even my mistake. But I think my mistake just illustrates my broader point on why I think the cycles are just on pace. It's incredible to me to see how many people are so bearish from a macro perspective. In the short term, we have targets. There are targets to the downside in the shorter term. This is a weekly chart, kind of hard to see, but we have this rising wedge we've been tracking. There's a target to the lower 20s. If you want to be bearish in the short term, there's a case for it, right? But I'm not talking about that short term. I'm talking about the cycles of crypto that we're tracking. Because on this chart, going into the next Bitcoin halving, crypto is looking magnificent. So let's discuss my mistake and how it plays into the charts here. It's back here when Bitcoin and crypto were just really doing well, most of crypto, I should say, all-time high. It was a higher high. And very simply, if you look at this chart, we were getting a lower high on the RSI, this momentum oscillator. That's a bearish signal. And that's from a macro perspective. This is a very zoomed out chart. That's a very bearish signal that was happening. Now, that's one piece of data. But the other very just obvious piece of data here is this. Look where Bitcoin was doing that. Right in between Bitcoin halvings, which historically also, even from just a very simple look at these charts, it signaled something very bearish getting ready to happen. Now, back here in December 2021, I do want to say this, and let me talk about my mistake now. I was talking about downside, right? This is a head and shoulders that we were looking downside for a very big dip, and this was all the way back here in December 2021. I was talking about downside. I'm not going to say I was just a permeable in these environments, but here's what I want to say, and this is where I think I made the mistake. I didn't talk about the pain that might be ahead. I talked about the downside there. That's pain, but I didn't talk about it enough. I didn't talk about the incoming bear market and how long it could be. We didn't analyze how long it could be. We didn't take this data, these accumulation areas, right? And we didn't talk about that enough. At least I didn't, I don't think. And I think the reason for that is because going into the bull market, my own plan of just taking profits and making sure I take some profits in the bull market. But from there, it's kind of like, let's just hope it keeps going higher. Take more profits. But if not, I guess we'll just hold through the next bear. I think that was my mindset. So I was kind of like, okay, that was a fun bull market. And if there is pain, we'll just endure. But I think it's good to prepare for that pain by acknowledging it a little bit more than maybe I did. And I think a lot of people kind of like, maybe this one won't be as painful. And here's what's so significant. It was exactly as painful as previous cycles. The harmony, the consistency on this Bitcoin chart is incredible to me. Even as we enter this red box, the similar accumulation area, preparing for this next Bitcoin halving, similar to the previous Bitcoin halvings, it's incredible to me how on pace it is. Not even just Bitcoin. You go to something like Cardano and altcoin market in general, Cardano down around 91% from bull market high. Well, at this time last cycle, Cardano was down around 97%, right? So the altcoin market just on schedule, on pace. And I realize there's a lot of things happening from a macroeconomic standpoint, and that has a lot of people feeling very bearish. But what's amazing about that is I think these things will resolve. Number one, I think these things will resolve, and we have time for them to resolve. The halving is not until spring of 2024. Elections over here, November 2024. But even if they don't resolve in the short term and there is an increase in fear, right? Look at the room that Bitcoin has to put in a higher low. It has room similar to the room it had when COVID hit out of nowhere in almost the exact same time frame prior to the last halving. It has room to put in a higher low. There's room to the downside. And not only that, as many of you know, there is the target for downside, right? We broke out of this falling wedge. There's room for downside for Bitcoin. But that's not the point of this video. The point of the video is to zoom out on that. And this is pretty zoomed out, but I mean zoom out even more. And this is for me. Zoom out even more because the technical principles that I maybe should have talked about more back here. Again, we were talking about downside, but maybe I should have spent more time on it in a similar way that I've been talking about exiting the bear because of the data that we have presented in front of us. In a similar way that I was doing back here. And you can go back and look at my YouTube videos back then talking about this. This is when I charted the chart back here with that similar type of confidence that these cycles would kind of continue the consistencies. And there's no guarantees. I will always say that. The whole thing could break and Bitcoin could just all of a sudden just capitulate below 10,000. I don't think that's going to happen at all. It could. And I realize that. You know, I analyze those things and I make sure that my risk tolerance is okay with things like that happening. But what I am saying is the fundamentals, whether it's in a bear market or in a bull market, I don't know if you've noticed, everybody, they just keep playing out. They keep repeating. And all the narratives that we have going on right now, as we analyze these charts and we analyze as we go into the next Bitcoin halving, all of the narratives that are in play, they lend themselves in a positive way to, I think, the macro uptrend, the continuation of Bitcoin and crypto markets in the long term, not in the short term. In the short term, those things could actually drive Bitcoin lower, a higher low. We'll track that. But this is a macro video, and I wanted to put it out there because there is a growing negative sentiment in markets right now. And I disagree with much of it, at least from a zoomed out perspective and what is happening here. I think the money printers are going to come back on eventually in the not too distant future. I think Bitcoin halving will hit. I think ETFs will get approved. I think SEC is going to lose. I think we're going to have a whole new era for crypto post this halving. And I'm focused on that. So let me know what you think, everybody, in the comments below. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Turn the notifications on. It means a lot to me, everybody. If you're out there right now, you've been watching these videos. So I just want to say thank you. I hope you have a good day. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.